Hello, everyone. It's Muriel Pitts again, just stopping by to share a little bit of information with you about grief this morning. Now, I do share on my channel about problems that I have with my feet, plantar fasciitis. So there are some videos regarding that if you'd like to check those out. But today we're talking about grief. I am a grief and life coach. I'm also a chaplain and bereavement counselor. And so this is the ministry that God has given me. And I do like to share and help people as they process. So I'm going to be looking down a little bit. I have some notes. But I wanted to talk a little bit about grief, mourning, and bereavement, because often we use those words interchangeably and they are not synonymous. Grief is a natural human response to separation or loss. And so grief is most often used when we talk about death. But grief can also happen or occur when there is a loss, whether it be a divorce or a loss of a limb, a loss of a job, a loss of your home. There could be many different types of losses that will invoke grief. And so grief is your personal response to a loss. It's how we respond in our emotions, physically, spiritually, cognitively, behaviorally. It has all of those different elements to it. And so grief is very normal. We saw in the Bible where Jesus actually cried after Lazarus died. And we saw other times that grief was shown in the Bible, where people would put on sackcloth and ashes and express their pain and their suffering as they went through grief. So it is a normal process. We've all experienced it. We all will experience it. It is a normal part of life that we don't like. And so it's a process. It's an entire process, an emotional process. We have to learn how to cope, how to manage. There are different techniques, different ways that people respond to it. And it can last a short time or it can last a very long time. It just depends. There's no one way to grieve. There's no one way to respond. And everyone and everyone deals with it in their own time. And so I like to say that grief has a mind of its own. It looks very different, and it shows up differently. You can be having a really good day, not even thinking about your loss, and it can hit you like a ton of bricks and wake up those emotions and send you into a tearful, emotional place. So we never know, but there are things that we can do to try to insulate ourselves. For instance, what I mean by that is if you know that you're struggling with grief with, say, a particular person who's transitioned, and you may not be able to look at their pictures right away. So it's okay to store those pictures to help you through that process. Maybe Father's Day or Mother's Day or Children's Day is difficult for you. So instead of going on social media during those days or going out to restaurants and seeing people who are celebrating those holidays, those days, it might be a time for you to step away, to insulate yourself, or go away with girlfriends, guy friends, family, and do something a little bit different to help you to manage as you respond to that particular situation. So that's a little bit about grief. So let's talk about mourning. Mourning is the outward expression of grief. And so it's the way that we emote. Mourning and grief, they're kind of like cousins. They work together. So while grief is a personal experience, mourning is the way that we express the actual grief. Mourning also includes the rituals, the funerals, the memorial services, the celebrations of life. Those are the things that we do to express the grief that we are experiencing. Even for many communities, especially in the Black community, A repast is often held after the burial. That is an expression of mourning. It's an opportunity for people to come together and love on the family, but so the family doesn't have to cook. But it is also an expression of mourning. And so while mourning, sometimes the sensations in the body are difficult to recognize, that you may be in a particular place, like you may be in a place of numbness. So you may be going through the motions of preparing for a funeral or memorial service and attending the service, but you're really emotionally don't feel connected, or you don't remember later what happened or who was there, because your expression of grief during that time of mourning was so heightened that you are physically and emotionally detached. So let's talk a little bit about bereavement. Bereavement is the period after a loss in which grief and mourning can occur. So bereavement can be described as a state of having experienced a loss, and it could be a form of depression, anxiety, insomnia, lethargy, hyperactivity, helplessness. Those are some of the things that we see in that period of bereavement. And so grief, mourning, and bereavement may be affected by our personality, how we are as people. I know that I have always been a little bit sensitive. So if there is a death that impacts me, then it may impact me even greater than maybe my siblings, because of the emotional person that I've always been. However, I will say I have grown in that area. But it could be also be impacted by culture. There are many different cultures that you don't emote in public. And so you have a very stoic appearance while you are in that period of bereavement, and you say that everything is okay, and you emote privately. It could be affected by religion. As an example, in the Bible, we see that there are specific ways in which people grieved, and there was a period of grief that was set. And I think that, my understanding is that God didn't want us to grieve forever. He didn't want us to grieve forever. And so you see that, so that can impact the way that people grieve. Also, when I talk about culture, we can even think about the culture of our home. If there are children in the home, who else is in the home that's impacted, and who are you trying to be strong for, if there's such a thing? So that can impact the way a person manages that period of bereavement. Even the way that a loss happened, whether it was tragic, whether it was expected, whether it was a young person, maybe they became sick quickly, and everything processed quickly. So whatever those parameters are, even if sometimes, working in hospice, sometimes I have older patients, and their children will say, we're good. Mom, dad had a really long life. God was good to them. We had them all of our lives, and so we're blessed. So we're not grieving in the way that maybe some others would grieve, because we had them so long. So for some people, it might be something like that. I've seen that. But grief, mourning, and bereavement are experiences that all of us will experience, rather. And so the key is to learn healthy ways to manage those emotions, healthy ways to manage those feelings that are associated with grief. And also, it's important to get help if you need it. It is okay to get help. It is okay to seek counseling, get therapy to help you through the process, along with your prayer and your devotion and your commitment to God and spending time with family and whatever it is that you do to help you through the process. It's important to get help. You can also reach out to grief coaches, because there are people who provide services such as myself, where we provide the support via the coaching mechanism, medium, if you will. And so if you are in that place where you are grieving, you are at a loss, you don't know what to do, reach out to someone. Find help. There are many different resources in your community. You may be able to. So check out local funeral homes. They will have information about bereavement and counseling, and may even have some referrals. Sometimes they'll have people on staff who provide those services as well. But look in your local community. Grief is hard. It is difficult. It is a monster, and it is okay to get help. So get that help wherever it is that you need it, whether it is counseling, coaching, spiritual help, but get help and know that I am here for you. So if you want to learn more about grief and loss and bereavement and mourning and just getting through those difficult times, stop by my channel from time to time, and I'll be posting videos. So I hope this was helpful to you today, and I hope you have a great day. In the meantime, I'll be praying for you as you respond to grief and loss. Take care.